Here we are with one of the finest screenplay breakdown, The Godfather, a true classic that has inspired generations of filmmakers. Its screenplay serves as a blueprint for countless movies. Today, we're diving deep into its storytelling, structure, and brilliance. So, if you're new here, join hands with the Notorious as we unravel the cinematic genius of The Godfather. This story is all about power. Who has it, who wants it, and what they do to keep it. Some fight for it, some lose control of it, and some don't even realize they want it, until they do. Vito Corleone wants to hold on to his power. Michael thinks he doesn't want it, but in the end he does. Sonny can't control it. Tom walks a fine line between having power and losing it. Every decision, every betrayal, every excuse.
Tell Mike it was only business. I always liked him.
Is about one thing, power. Who is the main character? That's not an easy question. The title refers to Vito Corleone at the beginning and Michael Corleone at the end. They each have their own journey. This film tells two stories, both about power passing from one man to another. First, we see Vito's world, how he built his power and kept it under control. Then, we follow Michael, who never wanted this life, but slowly, he takes the power for himself. His journey is about holding on to what is left and making it stronger. Vito wants to rule the way he always has, by tradition, by respect. Michael, however, must fight to rebuild and take back control. He doesn't just inherit power, he must earn it in his own way. This is the story of a family, a business, a legacy, and above all, power. Vito Corleone faces one big challenge. The world is changing, and he doesn't like where it's going. Even in the world of crime, things are different now. He refuses to get involved in selling drugs, but that decision creates enemies, rival families, betrayals from his own people. These become his biggest obstacles. Michael's obstacles are both outside and inside himself. Unlike his father, he wasn't born into this role. First, he must accept that he is now the Godfather. Then, he has to earn the trust of his family. But that's not all. He takes power in the middle of a war, surrounded by the same betrayals that helped bring down his father. A powerful crime boss who follows strict rules and traditions, hands over his empire to the son he never thought would take his place. The story begins with a lesson on how a godfather operates. A man comes to Vito for help, but he doesn't fully understand the world he's stepping into. Respect means everything here. The way you ask, the way you behave, it all matters. At the same time, outside the Godfather's study, a grand wedding is taking place. This isn't just a party, it's a way to introduce us to the Corleone family, both the criminal organization and the real blood-related family. We meet the new brother-in-law, Tom, the adopted son, and others. Through this wedding and the business being handled behind closed doors, we begin to understand the world of the Corleones, a world of power, loyalty, and betrayal. For Vito Corleone, the biggest question is, can he hold on to his power? He seems untouchable, yet the world around him is changing. The FBI is watching, and even the politicians and judges he controls are too afraid to attend his daughter's wedding. When he refuses a deal from Socia, the danger becomes real. He sends his most trusted man, Brasi, to spy, but that decision only leads to more trouble. The tension in Vito's story is simple. Will he be able to keep his empire? For Michael, the question is different. Will he become fully trapped in the family business? At first, he distances himself. He tells Kay about how his father operates, but he acts like an outsider. Even after killing McCluskey and Socia, there's still hope he won't follow his father's path. In Sicily, he seems more focused on love than power. But when Sonny is murdered, everything changes. Vito's story reaches its turning point when he calls a meeting of the 5 mafia families. To protect Michael, he agrees to a truce, even though it means accepting the drug trade, something he once refused. He still has power, but it's not what it used to be. He's forced to back down, breaking the very rules he lived by. For Michael, the turning point happens when he sits down with his father, now old and tired. Vito admits he never wanted this life for Michael. He hoped he would be a senator, not a crime boss, but it's too late. Michael is now the head of the family. He's been fully pulled into the world he once tried to escape. Vito's story ends with him stepping aside. He no longer holds power, his sharp mind fades, and soon, he dies peacefully, surrounded by his family. Michael's story ends very differently. He shows no hesitation, no mercy. He wipes out his enemies in a violent, calculated attack. After standing as godfather to his sister's child, he orders his own brother-in-law's death for betraying Sonny. At that moment, he becomes the true godfather, in name, in power, and in the eyes of everyone around him. This story is big, covering many years and two different leaders. But what keeps everything connected? The answer is simple: the family. The Corleone family is more than just relatives. It is also a powerful crime organization. No matter who is in charge, the family's goals remain the same: to survive and stay in power. That is what holds the entire story together. For Vito, his actions always reflect the needs of the family. But for Michael, it's different. At first, he is outside the family's world. He only truly becomes part of it when he kills McCluskey and Sollozzo. When Sonny dies, Michael steps in fully, becoming the new leader. During the transition, when Vito, Sonny, and Tom struggle to guide the family, we see how important the family's power really is. From the start of the film to the very end, everything is about the family's survival. In the beginning, Vito holds the power. In the end, Michael takes it, but the family's power remains at the heart of the story from start to finish. The story begins with two scenes happening at the same time: a wedding celebration outside and serious business inside. This tells us right away what kind of world we are in. On the surface, it's about family and traditions, but behind the scenes, it's about power and control. The first scene shows an undertaker asking Don Corleone for a favor, but he doesn't fully understand the rules of this world: respect, loyalty, and knowing your place. At the same time, outside, the FBI watches the wedding, reminding us that even this powerful family has enemies. We also see Luca Brasi struggling to rehearse his words before meeting the Don, and Johnny Fontaine showing weakness as he begs for help. Kay, Michael's girlfriend, is our way into this world. She doesn't understand it, and Michael tries to explain, though he keeps his distance from the family's ways. But even in these early moments, we see the tension. Michael is proud of his family, but also defensive about who they are. Each character in this story is defined by how they act under pressure. Vito Corleone follows a strict code of behavior. He never loses control because he believes in rules and traditions. His power comes from respect and careful decisions. Sonny, his oldest son, is hot-headed and impulsive. Whether cheating on his wife during the wedding or violently attacking his sister's husband, Sonny lets his emotions control him. That's why he clashes with Tom. Tom Hagen, the family's consigliere, is calm and logical. He treats everything as just business, but unlike Vito, his control doesn't come from deep personal beliefs, it's just strategy. Fredo, the weaker brother, is uncertain and insecure. From getting drunk at the wedding to failing as a leader in Las Vegas, he struggles to earn respect. Michael is different from all of them. He isn't guided by rules, anger, or strategy. He is driven by love. He falls in love quickly, marrying both women he truly cares about. But his deepest love is for his father. When Vito is shot, Sonny wants revenge, but Michael chooses to stand by his father, protect him, and ultimately save his life. This moment reveals everything. Sonny is fiery, Fredo is weak, Tom is calculating, and Michael is devoted. The entire story is shaped by a clash between two ideas: Vito's old ways and the new world of crime. Vito believes in tradition. He refuses to get involved in the drug business, even though times are changing. This decision sets everything in motion. Sollozzo sees Vito as an obstacle, so he tries to take him out. When Vito is shot, someone must step up to protect the family. Michael, who never wanted to be involved, is the only one who can do it. He kills Sollozzo and a corrupt cop, setting off a chain of events. This sparks a war that leads to Sonny's death. With Vito too weak to lead, Michael returns and takes over. The power that once belonged to his father is now in his hands. One of the best examples of dramatic irony happens when Michael visits his father at the hospital and realizes something is wrong. The guards are gone. He knows moving his father will only help for a short time. But then Enzo, the baker Vito once helped, arrives with flowers. Michael quickly comes up with a plan. He and Enzo stand outside the hospital, pretending to be bodyguards. The truth? They are completely unarmed and have no real way to fight off attackers, but from a distance, they look just dangerous enough to scare off a car full of armed men. If we only saw what the killers saw, the scene wouldn't be as tense. But because we know how helpless Michael and Enzo really are, the suspense is even stronger. Another great moment of dramatic irony comes when Michael plans to kill Sollozzo and the corrupt cop, McCluskey. Everyone thinks of Michael as a civilian, someone who is not involved in the family business. The last time he met McCluskey, the cop broke his cheekbone. He should be scared. But we, the audience, know something the enemies don't. Michael is a war hero. He has courage, and he has a plan. As they sit in the restaurant, the tension builds. McCluskey is loud and arrogant. Sollozzo is dangerous and unpredictable. We wait to see if the gun will be in the bathroom as planned. Will Michael be able to do it? Will they suspect him before he acts? The suspense comes from knowing what Michael is planning while his enemies remain unaware. This movie carefully builds up tension before big moments and shows the impact afterward. For example, when Tom goes to Hollywood, we first see a beautiful, peaceful introduction to the movie studio. But this calm feeling is quickly broken when Tom meets the studio boss, who rudely rejects him. This contrast makes the famous horse's head scene even more shocking. The slow build-up makes the payoff unforgettable. Another example is when Michael and Kay are Christmas shopping. Everything feels warm and festive, but at the same time, we see Luca Brasi preparing to meet with the enemy. A Christmas song plays in the background, creating a strange contrast to what's about to happen. This moment sets up the first major act of violence in the movie, the attack that starts the war. Later, when Vito goes to buy fruit while Fredo waits in the car, we sense danger. By now, we've already seen Luca Brasi killed and Tom kidnapped. The calm moment before the attack makes it even more terrifying when Vito is suddenly shot. The film cleverly sets up important details early on and brings them back later in meaningful ways. At the start, we see Vito help Enzo, an Italian baker, stay in America. Later, when Enzo comes to the hospital to thank him, he unknowingly helps Michael protect Vito from another attack. Another example is the Undertaker, Bonacera. He asks Vito for justice at the beginning, and Vito tells him there will be a time when he asks for a favor in return. That moment comes when Sonny is brutally murdered, and Vito asks Bonacera to make his son's body presentable for his mother. The phrase,
"I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse."
also works as a plant and payoff. Michael first explains it to Kay as something his father does, but not him. By the end of the film, these words define Michael's way of life. The movie often tells us what's coming, which builds tension. For example, before Michael kills Socia and McCluskey, he lays out his entire plan, getting the gun, hiding it in the bathroom, and making sure he has the nerve to pull the trigger. We see him prepare, which makes us anxious to see if it will work. Another example, when Michael is warned that he'll have to hide for at least a year after the murders, we know that his time in Sicily is coming. Vito also predicts that someone close to Michael will betray him. This makes us suspicious when Tessio and Clemenza start acting differently. Sometimes, the movie gives warnings that we know will come true. When Sonny threatens Carlo for abusing Connie, we know there will be consequences later. The challenge of this story is making the audience believe that ruthless criminals can also be people we care about. We know organized crime is real, but we don't usually see mobsters as people we'd relate to. The film overcomes this by making us sympathize with the Corleones. At first, Vito seems above the violence. He even tells Bonacera,
"We're not murderers."
Even though we know he uses force when necessary. The first shocking moment of violence, the horse's head, happens off-screen. Then, when the real violence begins, the first victims are people we know, Luca Brasi and Vito himself. This makes us feel the pain of the family, rather than focusing on their crimes. Michael is our biggest connection to normal life. He starts as an outsider, someone who doesn't want to be part of this world. When Vito is attacked, we see his love for his father and his instinct to protect his family. By the time Michael kills Socia and McCluskey, we have already been pulled into his world. We don't see him as a killer. We see him as a son doing what he must. But there's a twist. Michael was always different from his family. He went to college, joined the military, and became a war hero. So how did he come from this world? The answer comes in his final talk with Vito. Vito always hoped Michael would be a senator or governor, someone with great power. Maybe Vito shaped him for that life, kept him innocent for as long as possible. In the end, Michael's transformation isn't just about crime, it's about power, and that's what truly connects him to his father. In The Godfather, the difference between action and activity is key. The ritual kissing of the Don's hand is usually just an activity, a respectful custom. But when the terrified Undertaker kisses Vito's hand in the opening scene, it becomes an action. He isn't just following tradition. He's desperately trying to gain Vito's favor and fix his mistake. When Fredo throws a wild party for Michael in Las Vegas, it's an action. He's trying to impress Michael and prove his worth, even though we know it only highlights his weakness. Other gatherings, like Connie's wedding or Apollonia's engagement ceremony, are mostly activities. But for Michael, his courtship in Sicily is an action. He's following tradition not just for romance, but to show his respect and commitment. The biggest example is the baptism scene. For everyone else, it's just a religious ceremony, an activity. But for Michael, it's an action. He's using it as the perfect alibi for multiple murders. And beyond that, he's symbolically taking full power as the new Don. The film's dialogue isn't just famous, it's an essential storytelling tool. The phrase,
"I'll make him an offer he can't refuse,"
became iconic, but it also tracks Michael's transformation. Early on, he explains it to Kay as something his family does, but not him. By the end, it's his way of life. Each character's speech reflects their personality. Vito speaks with formality, always careful with his words, following a strict code of respect. Sonny is hot-tempered, impulsive. His words explode just like his actions. Tom treats everything as business, speaking calmly and logically, never emotionally. Michael speaks with control. Even when rejecting his family's ways, he does it with quiet confidence. Dialogue also shows power shifts. When Sonny and Tom argue, they fight like brothers, informal, raw. But when Tom speaks to outsiders as the consigliere, his tone is completely different, formal, calculated, authoritative. In The Godfather, words aren't just words. They define power, relationships, and transformation. The violence in The Godfather is unforgettable, not just because of its brutality, but because of how it is shown, or sometimes how it isn't. Luca Brasi's murder is filmed in an unflinching, relentless way. The camera does not cut away from his struggle, forcing us to witness every agonizing moment of his death. The same technique is used for Sonny's murder. The bullets tear into him, and the camera stays, showing his body being ripped apart by the relentless gunfire. But then, in a moment of contrast, the film takes the opposite approach with Connie's beating. At first, we see her anger, breaking dishes, throwing things, but when Carlo begins hitting her, the violence moves behind a closed door. We don't see it, we only hear her screams, and that, in some ways, makes it even worse. Our imagination fills in the horror. The film also contrasts its settings. The dark, shadowy back rooms where power is brokered stand in stark contrast to the open, sunlit landscapes of Sicily, where Michael falls in love with Apollonia. But as Michael takes on his father's role, the light disappears from his world. Just as Vito was shrouded in shadow in the opening scene, Michael is enshrouded in darkness during the baptism sequence, and later, when he fully becomes the Don, he has stepped into the same shadows of power that consumed his father. And throughout the film, the Corleone family's wealth is always on display. The grand estate, the lavish wedding, the luxurious furnishings, all of it reminds us of the power they hold. Dramatic scenes in The Godfather are carefully built up and given emotional weight through preparation and aftermath. When Socia proposes his narcotics deal, we first see him arriving, setting the stage. We see Vito with his trusted men, Tom, Sonny, Clemenza, establishing the power dynamic. Socia is deferential, respectful, knowing he is speaking to a man of great power. Then, Sonny's impulsive outburst breaks the formality, and Vito immediately puts him back in place, apologizing to Socia in a calculated way. Afterward, we see the consequences, Vito scolding Sonny, reminding him that outbursts like that can be deadly in their world. One of the film's most tense moments happens at the restaurant, when Michael prepares to kill McCluskey and Socia. The dramatic irony is thick. We know what he's planning. We know the gun is supposed to be in the bathroom, but we don't know if he'll go through with it. Every second drags, heightening the tension. Another powerful scene unfolds when Vito returns home from the hospital. We see the warmth of his family, his grandchildren visiting, the sense of relief that he has survived. But then, reality sets in. Tom and Sonny tell him the news. Michael is the one who killed McCluskey and Socia, and now he is in hiding while the five families go to war. The weight of this revelation hits Vito hard. He is no longer in control. And after, Sonny and Tom have their own moment, where Sonny tells Tom he is not a wartime consigliere, foreshadowing the chaos to come. One of the most heartbreaking moments comes when Tom has to tell Vito that Sonny has been killed. We already know, making it all the more painful. Tom hesitates. He doesn't want to say it, but Vito is a man who always gets the truth, and when he hears it, something in him changes. He is no longer the Don who controls everything. Instead, he is a father in mourning, and it is in this moment that he decides. He will make peace with the other families. He will do what it takes to protect Michael. One of The Godfather's most powerful cinematic techniques is its use of parallel action, cutting between two or more events happening simultaneously to create contrast, suspense, or deeper meaning. This technique is established right from the opening sequence. We move between the dark, controlled world of Vito Corleone's study, where power is quietly wielded, and the lively sunlit wedding outside, where the family celebrates. This contrast sets the stage for the entire film, the facade of tradition and warmth, and the harsh reality of the power struggles happening behind closed doors. Later, parallel action is used to show Michael's gradual transformation. While he is in Sicily, falling in love and enjoying a life free from the family business, back home, war is raging, violence that he set in motion. The contrast is striking. He still sees himself as separate from the crime world, but the reality is that he is already deeply entangled. And when his wife, Apollonia, is murdered, the two worlds collide. His detachment ends. He is no longer an outsider. And then, the ultimate payoff, the baptism sequence. This is parallel action at its most chilling and effective. On one side, Michael stands in the church, renouncing Satan, becoming a godfather in the religious sense. On the other, his men carry out brutal executions, making him the godfather in the underworld sense. The music, the prayers, the imagery, it all ties together, showing that Michael has completed his transformation. The contrast is no longer between two different worlds. It is a fusion. The man who once rejected his family's ways has fully embraced them.